Mm. All right. Good evening. Happy Friday. How's it going, C. Grover? Okay. Got some more air moving with the fan on there. Let's see here. Let's turn off this preview and pop this one on top. How's it going, Dave Odessa and Beatograph over on the YouTube chat? Hope everybody is having a good day and a good week and all of that. It's in my pocket still. Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. There we go. Put those there. Ouch. So I also have these. Way too many things in my pockets. Okay. And just one more over here. Let's put this back like that. Okay. So good evening to everyone. My name is Tim, for anybody who is new. I go by Foamy Guy on GitHub and Discord. This is the Deep Dive program, which is a weekly live stream program where we are working on all things related to CircuitPython. Sometimes we are working on CircuitPython core, the actual C code that is the CircuitPython program itself that runs on the microcontroller and interprets your text-based Python code. Sometimes we're working on libraries, sometimes we're working on projects. It just depends. Sometimes we do infrastructure things. Today we will be in library land and then a little bit into infrastructure of the libraries as well, depending on how much we get through of the first bit. Let me take a quick step back though for anybody that might be new or watching this video in the future. If you don't know anything about what I'm talking about, let's just get you caught up at least a little bit. CircuitPython is what we're working on. This is a implementation of Python that runs on tiny computers called microcontrollers. There's a bunch of pictures of these tiny computers, these microcontrollers, over on the downloads page here. Essentially, the devices that are depicted on this page will all have kind of a main chip there. Inside that main chip essentially is an entire computer. It's not a super massive, huge, amazingly powerful computer. It's relatively low power as far as computers go by today's standards. Certainly not nearly as powerful as your laptop or desktop or even like modern mobile phone or anything like that. But it is a complete computer nonetheless, and it can do some pretty impressive things, one of which is running CircuitPython and allowing you to program that device in Python code. So that is what we are working on. That's kind of the 50,000 foot view. If you are catching this live and you are new and you want to know more, feel free to drop questions in either of the chats. I'll try to keep an eye there, and I'm always happy to explain more if there are folks that are new. Otherwise, we will be jumping into the nitty gritty, down into the weeds, so to speak. We'll be diving pretty deep, as the name of the show does suggest. CircuitPython is an open source project. Anybody is allowed to use CircuitPython on your own devices. Anybody is also allowed to port CircuitPython to your own device. So if you're a hardware manufacturer and you would like your device to support CircuitPython, you're allowed to do that. You don't have to pay anybody or anything like that. It's an open source project. contributed to by the community, as well as some members of the community who are paid by Adafruit in order to work on that project. So the end users do not have to pay anything at all. All of this code is open sourced. Everyone's allowed to use it within the parameters of the license that it is released under. But the team who does work on the project is paid to do so by Adafruit. There are some folks who work on the project full-time. There are other folks like me who work on the project part-time, and we are paid to do so by Adafruit. So thank you first and foremost to them for obviously being able to pay folks to work on the project. It's quite literally a dream come true, honestly, in my case. It's an amazing project to work on, and so I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to do so and be paid for it. But also thank you to everybody who purchases hardware from Adafruit, because of course they would not be able to keep the lights on, keep the factory running, and keep paying folks to work on CircuitPython if not for selling hardware out of the factory based in New York. So head over to adafruit.com, check out all of the toys that they've got there, buy yourself some goodies, get those shipped straight out to your house, and in the process of doing so, you are helping support the CircuitPython project by paying them for goods and services, keeping the lights on, keeping everything moving over there, and allowing them to keep paying the folks working on the project. J.R. Rickson, first time catching the stream. I may have to break for a bit of food. How long does it usually run? We usually go for about 2 hours on Fridays. Yep. Right about 2 hours. I won't. It's not exact. Some days we run over. Some days we run a little bit short. Kind of depends on what's going on, but usually it's right around 2 hours. How's it going, William Degnan over on the YouTube? So where we are starting today is not actually this page here. Today we are starting in library PRs. In particular, we're taking a look back over the library PRs, many of which of these were submitted for the sprints at PyCon. These were submitted by folks who were in attendance at PyCon. Lots of these are submitted by newer contributors who have not necessarily contributed to the project before, or some less frequent ones. I think there's even a couple of names I recognized from last year's PyCon, which is nice to see some returning folks who worked on some good stuff last year pop back in and tackle a few more this year. This one, though, I happen to know, this is the one that's on the top of my list here. This one I know was put in at PyCon, has had some suggested changes, and the original author has come back and done some further tweaks based on the feedback of those suggested changes. So now it's ready to take another look over again, and if everything is looking good, then we'll leave like an approve and get this one merged in. So it is IR remote. I am gonna... Okay, first of all, I should have... let's see here. 1 second. Let me do something real fast here. Let's do this. Yeah, I gotta hide you for 1 second. Let's do this. Okay. This also, and this too, and this one more. Sorry. Actually, this one as well. Let's do that. Yep. What's that? What's that? Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Was not quite ready just yet. Let's do this. And then, yeah, where I was headed was, do we need to clone that or not? Let's see if we've got that already. IR remote. I do not have IR remote yet, so I will go ahead and clone that. Got to submit a couple of those. Awesome. Yeah, thank you for doing that. I really appreciate all of the new folks that we had pop in and contribute. It's been really great to see. So we're going to clone this one up. Okay, thank goodness they fixed this. This drove me insane for like the last day or two since I noticed it. It was defaulting to code spaces, which doesn't have the URL on it. So like it just turned this thing that has been ingrained in my brain for as long as I can remember, from being now like it used to be one, click this and then click copy, to now being 2 clicks because it defaulted to code paste. So you had to click local and then hit copy. Anyway, sorry. I kind of geek out about interactions with computer software sometime, and that one really tripped me up, and I'm happy that they changed it back. So hug report to GitHub today for switching that back to where you don't have to click an extra time, because honestly that was a bit crazy. How's it going, Dave Mardcourt over in the YouTube? It was a lot of fun. Adafruit folks ran really good sprints. Nice. I'm glad to hear that. Yep, I was not personally out there, although I hope to make it out, hopefully to the next one out in Pittsburgh. Definitely one of these days for sure, but eyeball in Pittsburgh for the next one. Hoping to make it out there, though, and join the folks that are there in person. But I was waiting in the wings this time. We got that clone. Let's open it up. Not going to be in that list just yet because we only just got it. Of course, this is going to be at the root because of the way the thing is weird. So we're actually just going to open up a random one of these, and then we're going to go to open again because now we'll be in a better directory. Should be right here. Yep, there it is. Just takes it a second sometime. Trust this window. Let's do that. VM, if I still haven't figured out how to make this default better. So we click that. -v get remote rename or origin Adafruit. So I like that better. Okay, now we've got the code here so we can bounce back and forth to that if we need. I like to get it cloned and have the ability to look at it in my editor as well as on this page here, because this does like some collapsing and stuff, and sometimes there's other kind of context around the code that gets collapsed, and it's just easier sometimes to bounce over here than it is to see it inside this view. So I'm going to start by just taking a look back through the change overall and see if there's anything that's jumping out to me right now as far as like potentially needing to be changed. One thing I will say, I guess, right off the bat is these could be inside of here, although maybe that's not true. Are these okay? These moved from down here, I see. So honestly, yeah, these imports I guess were just in a bit of a weird spot, and the PR does go ahead and move them to a more typical place up above the sort of main doc strings there. Okay, so those, yeah, these are not new imports. My first instinct here was that these were new since they're green, that these were new imports and that they were used during the typing, in which case it would make sense for them to be inside of this try block here. But they're not actually new, they just got moved. Bin data pulses is a list, returns a list of lists. So doc strings agree with that, a list of pulses. Thanks, and thanks for putting up with my peppering of random questions. Nice. Thanks for participating. It was successful because of folks' contributions. It was nice to chat with you in general. Yeah. Many thanks for sure from me as well. So this is list of lists, and then the next one down is a name tuple. Let's check here. So we definitely bins is what we're returning. Bins is starting out is a list here, and in fact it is a list that does contain other lists. Right now when it starts out it contains this inner list here with pulses 0 and 0, but then it gets appended here another list with pulse and 1. Then at the end of this whole thing is what gets returned, which indeed looks like it matches there, list of lists. Pulses, you know what I forgot to do today was change to a t-shirt. Got the work uniform on, the day job uniform on still. Pulses is a list and then returns a name tuple. So this is one where it's kind of contracted all the code inside of here, so we can't really see any of the code in this function. I'm just going to bounce to the editor just to take a quick look in this one. 102 decode bits. So this way we can kind of see all this stuff at once without having to unfold and all that stuff. So pulses, We do immediately convert it to a tuple, so it certainly could be a list. I don't think this necessarily tells us for certain it is, but name pulses is redefined several times. We'll stash the original in a separate variable for now. Might be worth refactoring to avoid. Yeah, I would agree probably with that generally. Is that a comment that's added by this? It doesn't look like it, huh? It looks like that was there already. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes along with typing. The way that if we are rewriting pulses over and over, especially if we're rewriting it with different types, is when it starts to make the code more complex with regards to the MyPy checks and things like this. So that's still probably a good thing to consider. It does change it to a list here. Well, it doesn't change it to a list. I mean, I guess it is changing it if it's not a list, but it's duplicating it, I suppose. I didn't realize that gave you a different list all the way. I guess list function is always making a new list. Where'd my code go? That's weird. Why'd it go away? Okay. Okay, yeah, list. Definitely duplicates it, makes a new one, so you can then start changing them independently. So now we have our original pulses. We have a copy of it stored back in the variable that it came in with. We also have input pulses, which is a tuple containing the same data. Says that's going to be returning a named tuple, which we return. We return IR message. IR message is indeed a named tuple right here. IR message with pulses and code. How's it going, Shahid Abbas? Hopefully I didn't mispronounce your name there too bad. Apologize if so. Fan of Adafruit, that's nice to hear. Thanks for hanging out with us here during the live stream. So that's, yeah, definitely named tuple. I think IR message, you might be able to be more, I don't know for sure, but you might even be able to say IR message here instead of named tuple. I don't know if it works like that for certain though. We'll definitely want to test that to be sure. But it is for sure, I mean, it is definitely a named tuple. So if nothing else, that's an accurate type for it as well. Unparsable IR message. And, oh, okay, and I see. It's actually more generic than this, right? We couldn't just do IR message because it only returns IR message if it makes it all the way down to here. Oh, that's not a return, though. That's a raise. Of course, if it raises, then it doesn't return anything, so I suppose it'd be optional. Is that true? I don't know. Maybe it does still return. I don't know how raises. Okay, but then we do have up here return, and that's a different type. And you see repeat. Okay, so even if it can be the more specific ones, it would need to be at least two, like a union with NEC repeat as well as IR message, and then I'm not entirely sure how raise factors in, but that might as well. They are all named tuples though, so I'm inclined to say what's there now is probably fine, right? Named tuple does accurately type all three of those. Of course, this one doesn't seem used in there, does it? Oh, there it is, okay. Setting it to message. Interesting, but then message is not, message just gets raised. Looks like Adafruit uses toggle switch circuit for switching from battery to VBus as the MCU's main power source. Are two diodes safe enough? On featherboards, like, will the MCU just choose the power source with the highest voltage? Honestly, I am probably not the best one, the person who's best suited to answer that for you. Sorry, I don't want to lead you in the wrong direction or anything. So I am gonna pass on answering that one just because I don't know the answer for certain. I am way more, like, personally, I'm way more on the software side than the hardware side. I am very much a newbie to electronics and circuitry and things like that. I would say if you are interested, you could join us over on the Discord, which is linked down below. And then I think there's a couple places that would maybe make sense to ask. There's like a help with projects. I think there's also a help with hardware design, or even potentially something like help with CircuitPython might make sense if you're talking about a feather that runs CircuitPython. Main point being, though, there are folks around the Discord that are a lot more in tune with the electrical engineering side of things than myself, and they'll be able to definitely get you the correct answer there, and I don't want to mess it up with something like that. So that would be my recommendation, is try asking over on the Discord if you can. Gotta go for a bit. Hope to catch the tail end. Yep. Thanks for hanging out for a bit. We'll see you around later if you make it back. Otherwise, you can check out the video if you like, or tune in next week or anything. Feathers using LDO for power switching. Help with hardware would be a good place for that question. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry I couldn't get you anything more specific, but get a little skittish on the electrical questions. I just don't want to. Definitely don't want to be the reason why anybody's letting the smoke out of anything. So we got pulses as a list. Max pulse is an int. One of those interesting ints with the underscores in there. Returns none. Pulse in. That one doesn't really do a whole lot. Seems good. Read for returning none. Has no arguments. Pulses as a list again. I assume we'll be seeing a lot of that. Pulses as a list, and then same as the return bin data. This is, let me see this earlier. Data list. Decode bits. Another one of those. There it is. Decode bits. Wait, what? Why is that different? Decode bits takes pulses as a list. Decode bits takes pulses as a list? We have two of those. $271? Is there another base class? There. Oh, okay. There's another base class. Okay. Oh, there's actually three. At least three base classes. Decode bits. So we have another one of those. Interesting that it's different in here. Tuple instead of named tuple. That's a good point as well about the schematics too. Yeah, in the learn guides for any particular piece of hardware, like if you go from the shop page, there will be a link to the learn guide for that product, and then in the learn guide, if you look for the downloads page, typically there's a schematic in there. Generally speaking, when using properly rated batteries and other power sources, feathers choose the higher voltage source. Nice. As long as everything else is working as intended and you got all the right stuff going. So that one, list, and then decode bits was the just tuple, no longer the named tuple. It is result, which calls decode bits dot code. Is it calling itself? Generic decode. It doesn't extend anything. But it just goes in here, and then it says result equals decode bits pulses, which is what we just got past. 102. Oh, okay. This is not inside of a class. These are just functions in this file. Okay. But this one is a class. No, this one down here, rather. This is a class. This is generic decode class, which has a function called decode bits, which is calling up to the function that is not in a class. Static, I guess. I don't know if it's technically static, but it feels like a static function. So in order to know the return type for this one down here, we actually will need to know what is this return, and then specifically we want to be getting code off of it. So if we take a look at, for instance, IR message named tuple pulses code. It just has like a string after it, which is interesting. The string is like not getting passed into anything. Code equals a tuple of output. Yeah, nice. Okay, so that's going to be getting the code from the other one, which we just saw will be a tuple. Where to get a Raspberry Pi 02W? Looks like it's all sold out. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, Raspberry Pi supply is still pretty tight. So I do not have an answer for a place where you can for sure get one. The best advice I can give is the advice that I have heard a few times on Ask an Engineer and some of the other shows, which is on the Adafruit site. If you first of all, like, make sure you have an account created. You have to have an account in order to buy it. Make sure your account, I believe it has to have two-factor authentication turned on. I don't know if that has changed anytime recently, but as far as I know, the last I heard on any of the rest of those shows, that was the case. So make sure you create an account. Make sure you get two-factor authentication turned on, get it all set up, ready to go. And then if you sign up on the product page, there will be a thing for like a wish, I don't know what it's called exactly, like notify me when it's back in stock. Sign yourself up on that, and then when the hardware comes in, they will send emails to, you know, X number of people on the list based on how many hardware devices they were able to get a hold of. So that is the only / best way that I know of to try to be able to pick up a Pi Zero, or any of the Pis, if I'm honest about it. I don't think that's specific to Zero or anything else. I think that's all of them. And be aware, I'm pretty sure it's still limited to just like one per. So if you're trying to just buy one to get it, then you can go that avenue. You know, sign up on that, notify me when it's back in stock. If you're looking for more than one, if you're trying to buy in bulk or anything like that, unfortunately, I think that's not an option at this time. Not from Adafruit last I knew. Which also, be aware, I am separate from the whole factory, from the whole purchasing of Pis and anything else. So everything I know about it is all just from public live streams from Ask an Engineer when I've heard it talked about. So yeah, my information could be out of date. Plus, I don't have any access to any information that's not just stuff I heard on live streams, right? Heard from Lady Ada and PT. Pis definitely require 2FA still. Okay, yeah, Pi Moroni has got 4 GB in stock with international shipping. There you go. Tip in the Discord chat. Thanks for dropping that one there, Tyeth. Gerald over on the YouTube there, we've got folks in Discord are saying Pi Moroni has potentially got some 4 GB in stock. So if you luck out, maybe head over to Pi Moroni's page and got a tip that there may be some there. I would say head there pretty quick though, because as far as I know, they're still selling out everywhere pretty quick as soon as they show up. Read pulses non-blocking. You know, that's an interesting that it says non-blocking at the end. I actually have, I was working on non-blocking for the text scrolling inside of the 14 by 4, and I think I put non-blocking at the beginning of my function instead of the end. It might make sense to put it at the end, though, if nothing else, just to keep it consistent. I don't know if that's used across the board throughout libraries, but I noticed that I did do that backwards right now. Input pulses is a list, max pulse is an int. It's interesting we don't have the underscore thing on this one. Doesn't really matter though. Pulse window, float, yeah, 0 point whatever. Optional list, so it could return a list or it could return none. Look there, return received. Received is, yeah, if received is none, then continue. So yeah, presumably received can be none, and then, you know, once you get to the, well, it's a while true, actually. I was going to say once you get to the end of the loop, something must be breaking. I guess the return right here. Yeah, at some point you're going to get to here. If recent count is 0, then return received. I'm assuming received can still be none. Definitely starts as none there. And then here, in fact, we are doing equals a list, and then we're appending. So yeah, none or list definitely looks right to me. Input pulses list, int, boolean for blocking, float, float, optional list, read pulses. Not the one I just did, is it? No, that's the next one down, but it does have a similar signature. Pomeroni is a good place because pies are British, and so is Pomeroni. They're saying that on Pomeroni they dropped 4 hours ago. 6 p.m. today. I assume that's probably 6 p.m. local time to England or wherever Pomeroni's at. Input, pulses list. Yeah, good to me. We'll double check it with the doc strings. It's always a nice one. Pulse in, input pulses, object to read pulses from. I wish that would stop popping up. This does say it's a pulse in input pulses. But it does seem like list would be more likely, right? Input pulses is shown as a list there. Whoops. Ah, okay, yeah, now we went way back. Int, boolean, float. Does asterisk mean list? Maybe asterisk means list. Sphinx, docstring, syntax, return, whoops. Oh, okay. Not really a return though, right? It was a read pulses. Sphinx docstring, param, syntax. Let's start with that. Try tacking on list as well, maybe. Tilde. Didn't come up with anything. Let's go tilde. Anything? Tilde. Oh. List. We have 3 copies of this page now. List. Tuples. I don't actually know what the tilde means. Cheat sheet. Oh, I spelled tilde wrong. I guess that's part of my problem. Go. Preceding tilde. Cross-reference. Class with preceding tilde showing only the class name. I don't know what does the tilde actually mean though. Reference to a structured data class. But also I will say too, we are in this. We're not in like Sphinx specifically, we are in whatever this is. So this is talking about specifically some ORM thing. There's no tilde spelled the right way either. Maybe pulse in is a list? I don't know. Yeah, that one's weird to me that this one doesn't say list, but my best guess is that either pulse in pretty much behaves like a list, or that what we have is actually a list of pulse in objects. They're kind of my top two guesses on what that is most likely meaning. Header int 10 trail debug all none. If you're in the US, be prepared for long delays for shipping. 31 days to arrive. Not too bad. When a function can return a list or none, I like to return the empty list instead of none. Yeah. I would say, generally speaking, I probably agree with that. I don't necessarily know that we're like, I don't know for sure if there are cases where it is doing that. We had the optional one before, I guess, right? That was from a little while back, but yeah. I mean, if I'm writing a function, I would probably tend to agree with that. I think returning the same type, I try to do that when I can. So an empty list would be better than none in a case where it can return a full list as well. But I also don't necessarily want to like make that change without looking further around to make sure we're not going to break anything. What is all of these headers? Header int 1 and 0. It's weird. Why do we have 1 and 0? Okay, these do match the doc strings though. The Sphinx one, length in microseconds. Oh, okay, I see the length of that type of message, basically trail. Transmit, pulse out, data byte array, repeat for int, delay for int, in bits, optional int, transmit, pulse out. We are matching there. This one doesn't have a tilde as well, so I'm thinking that tilde does probably mean list. Byte array matches, repeat. This one says float for delay. Does default to 0? I would say it does. We should try to match whatever the value. So like in my mind, if floats are allowed, then my thought would be to do it like this, where we explicitly have 0.0 to show that floats are allowed. And then if floats are not allowed, then that's where I go more like this, int 0. However, as is, it's a little tough to tell. I don't actually know. Transmit. Can we find any usages? Pulse out. That took pulse out and then a list. The byte array. But then delay does not get used. And then that's the only usage. IR remote transmit. Is made for a Circuit Playground Express. Do we need... It doesn't know if it's successful, right? We could just do this on any pin? Is that true? Can we just set this up for a pin that doesn't actually have IR on it, and then try to figure out what we're allowed to pass to it? Okay, here we go. What is this? Oh, grid. See, this is group, test, built-in, unders. I'm on a Feather TFT. Not gonna worry about a button. We are gonna figure out a pin. We're just gonna say, I don't have anything plugged in, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna do D9. Generic transmit, if button value. So what I'm gonna do is change this to just say pass, and then we will send this once. Print after transmit. So obviously I don't have the IR LED hooked up, so nothing is actually getting transmitted in this case. The pin is going to get toggled to where if there was a light on it, then it would send a message, but since there's no actual light on it, obviously it's not going to do anything. Hopefully it's going to let us call it, though, so that we can... Whoops. Try testing the delay argument to see if it will take a float or not. Okay, so that did send successfully, supposedly. It thinks it did, so it waggled our pin for us. So then delay would be here. Like delay 1, we could stick into that, and it will successfully make it through it again. What about delay 1.87383? Yes. Okay. So floats are allowed there. So for that one, that could change to be float. And then in my mind, it makes sense also to change the default to 0.0. And that's really the only... thing I see that needs to change. What I saw for that pass through. I'll take a quick look at these, just refresh my mind on what some of these were. We definitely saw pulses typed as a list everywhere. I'll double check them again, but pulses. That right now, real quick. We'll run through here. Pulses. 107. Wow. Okay. It's a lot. They highlight those, so it's pretty easy. Pulses list. Pulses list. Max pulse, that was another one that didn't have it there. It does. Pulses. Input pulse. Yeah, okay. All the places where there's pulses are typed now. This one is what? Pulses max pulse? Yeah, we got that one. Yeah, that's another one. Another one. Another one. Those are not pulses, but I'm pretty sure we did have all of those done. That's around 314. Yeah. What? Really weird is going on with these. It's opened all of them. Okay. This is the one I was trying to open. I'm not sure why it opened all of them. We definitely did have that because we looked at that function. Those were mostly ints. Out, delay, repeat. Yep. Okay. Was this pulse window? Remote, that's at 281, or it was. Window, start does float now, yeah. Okay. So the one thing that I can see at this point that I think should change is just delay to be a float right here. That is super minor, and the last time this person did commit was like a week ago. If there was anything more to do than that, I probably would just leave another, suggested change. I think since it's literally changed this one thing here, I'm just gonna, as long as it will let us, I'm just gonna add more commits, yeah. I still am not clear whether this always shows up even if you don't have permission or not. Try to test that out one of these days. If we want to be able to add a commit to this PR, we will need to have the correct remote. Get remote, add Pedro VS16, Pedro VS16. Enter that one. Fetch Pedro. What? Pedro, I spelled it wrong. Type this. Okay. Zero. It doesn't really. This one is less important, I think, since it's in a string and not like in the type. Or the default, I should say. In the actual code. Pre-commit. Okay. I think we are good there. Float instead of int for delay. That should be our only change. The rest of this should be unchanged. How's it going, Keith? Hope everyone's Friday's going well. Same to you, my friend. Go here. Show up newest commit at the bottom, and then we'll wait and see if that passes actions, which it should, because we just ran pre-commit here, but it's always good to wait. We'll see if it passes actions, and then I'll leave and approve and merge it if it does. Oops. That was the one that I know off the top of my head was ready for another look. So while we wait on actions for that one, I will just take a look through the rest of these here. This one has got some feedback, but hasn't had any further action yet. So kind of just play the wait and see game, wait and see if the contributor is going to come back and do that. Eventually, if they don't, then somebody else will probably pick it up. Related C-level typing on this one. Okay, same thing here. Already got some feedback. Just waiting to see if the person's going to come back. There are merge conflicts in this one. I guess one thing we could do to try to help out is reserve the conflicts. I wonder what would have changed 2 weeks ago. 2 days ago. Ran pre-commit. Let's try to merge main on this one. Like, this is something the contributor can do, but it's, I would say, a little bit kind of more advanced. Like, if you're not really, you don't have a lot of experience with Git, then it might seem harder. It might seem hard. So maybe if we can do that, it'll make it more likely that they come back to it. I have never done it in here. Supposedly you can do it with this thing. I've never tried that. I don't think I want to try it live for the first time on one that's not mine. So what we're going to do is fix it locally. BNO88 something something. Do we have that? Yep, I got that one right there. So I'm currently on main, but there's no telling when I cloned this originally or how out of date my local one is. Git remote -v git remote rename origin Adafruit. We're gonna end up wanting to push here as well, so we're gonna need the remote for the end user. Git remote add. I'm gonna paste that, and then I'm gonna come back and do the name, which is gonna be RRAHKOLA. Enter git fetch RR. Okay, and now we go GHPR list, GHPR repo set default. Trust G, which is not one of the valid options. GHPR list, GHPR checkout, good old number 42. And then let's look at the differences. So in order to look at the oh, that's interesting. It's in dev. I don't know why that's in. Is that like part of the name of the branch? Ah, okay, yeah. It's not actually in dev, like it's a directory. It's just there's a slash in the name. Interesting. I didn't know that was allowed, actually. So if we want to see the differences, PyCharm actually makes this super easy. On the branch we're on is add type attributes or dev slash. I guess this is what has turned it to a folder. Kind of interesting. But we can always just go like compare this, right? Compare with like that. That's going to show us up here commits that exist in main but not add type attributes. And then down here commits that exist in add type attributes but not main. In our case, we're interested in the top ones. We want the commits that are in main but not in our PR branch. Basically this stuff. Init, I think, was the file it said. So far we just have empty lines. There one. It looked like all empty lines to me, but I assume it's more than that. Otherwise, GitHub probably would have done it by default. So we'll go merge main into this, merge main into dev add type annotations. Okay, there we go. We found the same conflicts. We're gonna say I want to merge these. There we go. Okay, so these ones are in typing. We want to take that. We want to take that. Basically here we just go pull everything as it makes sense from left and right. There's actually a lot of stuff on the left here. It's going to be basically every change. Probably what we're going to end up doing is pulling all the stuff from the left and all the stuff from the right. And most likely there's going to be some small number of those, I'm guessing, where it's actually different. Like we have change on the left, we also have change on the right. But the change on the right actually is not really a change per se, it's just getting rid of an empty line. The change on the left is adding the type annotations, of course. And in our case, PyCharm's magic wand here is actually going to resolve it perfectly for us, because that is going to pull the type annotations from the left, and it is going to pull the lack of an extra line from the right. Thank you, PyCharm, for having really helpful merging tools. It's like same thing here. String, and then we got rid of an empty line there. So same thing, magic wand is going to help us fix this one easily. So if the difference is a little more extreme than that, then the magic wand will not necessarily help you, but those ones were actually really simple for it to figure out. Do have a lot of these. That is looking like the same thing. Prints none. This doesn't have that extra empty line there. I'm assuming that must have been like a difference in the version of Black or Pylint or something. Guessing the old version gave us those empty lines and the new version got rid of them. Or maybe more accurately might be the old version allowed us to have those empty lines without changing them, whereas the new version doesn't. Maybe the old version didn't explicitly add them itself. That part I don't actually know. Turns a packet, wait for packet. Dun, 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 dun. All changes processed. So yeah, all the conflicts were actually just those new lines. We go apply on that. We go, we're ready to push that. We double check that our branch is right. Dev/add type annotations. No, excuse me, attributes actually it says, not annotations. Our RH Walla Cola. Okay. This will show up here. And then with a bit of luck, it will be green on the part here where it said, like before it said there was conflict, so it wasn't allowed to be merged. now the conflicts are resolved, so it's back to being allowed to be merged. Of course, appending like the actions and like an approval and all that stuff. So obviously that's still in the mix, but we no longer have conflicts. That's kind of one barrier out of the way. And I will always do that for folks if I run across their PR that's like that. Just because, like I said, if you're not used to the tools, like, that can be a daunting thing if you're not used to it. Dash display has feedback, but is waiting on action. Display button. Right, I remember this. Yeah. This one does have feedback. Yeah, it's waiting still for some more. The next thing to try on this one, I'm hoping the contributor will remove this line and see if that gets rid of the MyPy error that's flagging that line. Basically, there's some type, I think the term is type juggling. I'm not sure if I'm like actually using that glossary term correctly or not, but it sounds like it would fit. I think there's like type juggling where this is like getting passed in an argument that is a string, but then it's later saving the same variable to a label object instead of a string. And MyPy is not super happy about that. This one is pre-PyCon. It is waiting for a review. These ones are technically from PyCon. This person started working on this around PyCon, but they have kept it up and they submitted another batch of these just the other day. That is still just waiting on action on their part for now. I have my eye on this one. This is not PyCon or type annotations related. I do have my eye on this one to test out at some point. I don't know if I want to do it on stream though, because it's adding an example that renders pictures of fingerprints. I don't think we want my fingerprint on the stream. So it would be difficult for me to stream and show what I'm working on without showing it that way. This one's already merged. HTTP server. This one back in draft, or is that one back open now? Yep, back to open. This one's looking for some more review. I have tested this one a few times. Even I think we worked on this last week on this stream as well. Current status satisfying all the changes both at initially and after the ones were created listed in the first post above with edit text next to them if they were changed. Any new ones? Give us your toe print. There we go. We could go toes instead of fingers, maybe. Get a fake fingerprint. SPR is a good foundation for implementing middleware in the future if that comes. So this one will need a little bit more time. This one will need some more thorough testing, basically. But it is out of draft and ready for that, so maybe Monday we'll be getting back into testing that one again. Silent errors. It's something different. It's already merged also. IR remote. That's the one we looked at. Update logs for no args. Recommit is passed now. I don't really understand this part, I guess. Is there a better way to run black after the commit is pushed? So ordinarily you would run black before the commit is pushed. pre-commit. I mean, in our case, generally pre-commit is going to be the thing that runs black, and then the idea is that pre-commit runs before your commit gets created. If you use pre-commit install, oh wait, no, they didn't do it. They did pip install pre-commit. If you use pre-commit install, which this doesn't, then it will automatically run when you go to make a commit. It will do it automatically before by itself. If you're doing it manually, then you typically, I think, are going to want to do that before it gets pushed. So this, I mean, this is what I do. Pre-commit run, I do -a, which is, I think, a shorter version of --all files. That typically does work for me. Saying, though, they complained about loads of files for CRLF. Thought going backwards was easier, as black seems to check just change files. But I don't really follow this last part here. But they, you know, one way or another, they did get it figured out. Force pushed. Because we are all green now. So really the main thing we need is like a review. Files changed. So it used to be self.name level message. Huh? What is... What is that? Is it being used for dividing? Like modulus? Message %sign args and then args. So the new one is self.name level. We still have this, but it's in parentheses now, and then it also says if args else message comma args, so that would be a tuple, I think. Message and args. Gotta hit the hey, thanks Tim, good night all. Take it easy, Dave Odessa, thanks for hanging out for a bit. String formatting. Okay. Okay, message is the string. Presumably that string has a %s in it then, I guess, or a % something. Interesting. Args. I'm not sure I follow how this... What's going on with this one, maybe? Automated setup start for the week. I was a center, I didn't have pre-commit setup. I don't know. I don't usually install pre-commit. I usually run it manually, personally. I've played around with installing it, but I don't know. I find I don't forget to do it, and I like to have that manual thing. I also like for like when it goes automatically, it's kind of unclear. Like if it encounters problems, then it's like, what state are you in? Did it finish your commit or did it fail and therefore it didn't? If you run it separately as two different steps and then pre-commit fails, like there's no question about what state you're in. Like you're still in the same state, your pre-commit just failed because you weren't like halfway through a push or whatever. So the main change here is that you can pass in no arguments. Adapting the Sensiron I2C driver uses Python logging. They pass in nothing as arguments, args, sometimes to logger.debug blah format args. So compatibility with CPython definitely is good. This does make us closer. I'm not used to this interface quite yet. If this does get us closer to CPython, that's definitely for the better. Where does args get passed to though? So is it into like info or error, those things? Or is it in the constructor? Log, underscore log. So I'm guessing that the, like dot error and all of those ones, dot warning, all of those, I'm guessing those are calling dot underscore log. I don't have this one cloned. String format, right, sorry. I think it 1% was using dot format instead. It wasn't. Since Syrian library was using Python, logging was doing that via logger.debug, gibberish, dot format, nothing. One seems kind of stuck. Waits forever. I did not know that. I don't know. This does not feel like it's going to complete. Hopefully all systems are operational though. So in your example there, would that be like a variable that contains none? Or would it be they call format and then there is literally just nothing inside those parentheses? Data2 log string result. That depends on what is data2 log string. How's it going, Jose? RPO over on the YouTube there. Bytes returns a pretty printed data. String data. Log debug format with no result. So then result is none, maybe, or empty. Yeah, it must not be none though, right? Because string of none, does string of none give you the actual string none? You know, NE with a capital N? Does. So I mean, it feels to me like this will always return a string with something in it. It will either be a string with square brackets and something inside of them if this actually evaluates, but even if this doesn't evaluate, you would get square brackets by themselves, and then and the other possibility, it would be the string version of your data, which even if your data is none, then that will still be the string, the literal string none. Args is an empty list. empty byte array response for ITC command, but not necessarily meant. Oh, I think I'm not. Our result with no result. It was the empty list rather than none, as you say. Okay, let's try that one. Try to make a new file here. We're not going to commit this, so it'll just get deleted later, but logging CPython test. So we have some base level to test against here, so just compare some to CPython. Import logging, do that, the CPython logging. I'm gonna split this. Back to here, I'm gonna get some of this stuff out of my way. Try to make this kind of the same way, logging.getLogger, so let's do that. Let's go, sure. Handler, why not? Let's do that. Bang, that one, logging. Get logger, name, default, handler. Doesn't necessarily matter if we do that. That. I really need the asserting, I don't think. Let's just let that run. That should just print out our message. Didn't. I think info, is that because our level is wrong? Or it's because the default, it's because the handler is null. We need this also. We need a handler. Then we need to do this. Print, but that's this. There we go. Now we get to print. Red for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why it's red. Especially when it's not like error, but it did come out, so. Handler info message. So then basically this would be like if you did this. Saying here. Placement index 0 out of range. List. Called handler. Info message empty list. Okay, BRB, I gotta run to the restroom. Okay. So if we run this same thing on the microcontroller side, I'm logging. It's the same thing so far. I mean, it's slightly, we got slightly different, I guess. It's not red. It does have a timestamp. But other than that, it's the same thing. Auto? Yeah, circuit auto is pretty nice. I do forget to do it that way sometimes, but I think they're default none. Yeah. I'm not following what's the case? I guess what I want to try to get to is the minimal code necessary to illustrate the different behavior between CircuitPython and CPython. Even just like, I don't have this anymore. If args. Args. I wish there would be a reproducer code of like, run this code in CircuitPython, run this, the CPython variation, which will be almost the exact same. The difference would just be the import. Here's how it behaves in CPython, here's how it behaves in CircuitPython, and then this is the PR that changes it so that it's the same. That would make it a lot simpler, I think, to review. Because I don't see I don't quite follow what this change is gonna do. I can't quite visualize what is the code that runs that used to not work in CircuitPython and now does, right? Like, ideally we want to try to find that code to understand what it's doing. Get you a crashable test, okay. What is 30, which was, the bread invention 30,000 years ago. 30,000 years on bread, huh? Sliced bread, though, I guess. Before that, it was just rip a chunk off. Which is not a bad way to go. Check back in on this one. Yeah, all checks passed on this one now. How's it going, Axel? Grandmother would never touch bread with a knife. You always break it. Unrespectful. Interesting. Breaking bread? I've heard of breaking bread before. Oh, this one's one of these ones. I like to do this. I don't know, it doesn't really matter, right? This format's also acceptable. I like this format, though. Or I shouldn't even say I like it versus anything else. It's just I'm most used to doing this format here, and then adding a sentence at the beginning that says what changed. I don't want the same tag, though. We want a new tag that's one higher. It's doing that thing where it won't fill this in. I don't know why it does that sometimes. Like, sometimes this list will pop up with all the people, especially the one person who I'm looking for, the person who made the PR. Other times, they're just not in the list. It will still pop up a list of names, but it will just not include that one, even if you're typing the first half of it. Weird. 4.1.15. 4.1.14 is the previous release. 4.1.15 is definitely higher. Typing information. BS 16. Expression breaking bread means to share some food with a guest. Nice. Breaking or tearing the bread is a thing in some cultures. I had no idea. Okay. Hold off a minute on that. Sounds like we may get some help from directly. I didn't notice it actually at first, but that's actually from the person who made it. Tyeth is in the chat there with us as well, which is awesome. Annotations. Waiting for action. Including pre-commit. Some of these just need pre-commit still, so at some point I'll go through and run pre-commit on them and just add a commit if the original users don't ever come back and do it. Like a full. It's not PyCon. Pre-commit has been updated. Session object none subscriptable. AR. 1030. None type isn't subscriptable. Received rel by AB. Single response. It's the page we were looking at this code in. None type. So it's definitely going to be passing none. I think. Or WR available, but 2W look hard to come by. Did this not highlight the... Receive. A2C connection received raw. Interpret response, interpret single response, then interpret response with no leading underscore. None of those are inside transceive. So I'm not sure the line numbers are the same still. Look like it. 211, it shows inside of interpret response with an underscore, which is here, but that actually ends at 207 in this version. Yeah, sorry, I'm still missing. I'm still not quite understanding like what is at the end of the chain, what is getting passed into this. I'm still a little not quite understanding that. So this one definitely fails if you do format with nothing, but it fails with index error, tuple index out of range. It's different. And I'm pretty sure that fails outside of logging altogether, right? Yeah, line 10, that's still, so that one doesn't even make it into logging. Definitely not empty. It's gotta be none something, but I'm not. Okay. Or is it, maybe, is it multiple or something? Or maybe it's not enough? None once, but then another one of these? That feels the same way, but it's still the same thing where it's like, that's part of format rather than logging. Maybe it's none like this. Sorted types. Odd. Okay, that's probably it. That's probably it. It did try. Well, mod. Does it use dunder mod for the string substitution as well? CPy. Did I put none in there? Did I just run it without anything? I did. None. Okay, so that one's definitely different. That does type error there, whereas CPython works fine. Let's try it with nothing. I'm kind of curious. That time we were missing an argument, which makes sense. Same thing there. It's worded slightly differently, but in effect, it's the same message. Okay, so I think we found it. Maybe none. What's dunder mod? Dunder mod. Dunder is like shortcut for this double underscore. So dunder mod just means double underscore, 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 then mod, and then another 2 underscores at the end. That's all that means. And the reason I ask is because when we did this, it says unsupported types, and then it has this. So I was saying dunder mod, like, is it using dunder mod in order to evaluate the percent string substitution? Or is that a different mechanism? It looks like it does based on this, because it looks like it's trying to mod that, which is odd, because it's not trying to like modulus, it's not trying to divide and then take the remainder. I don't think. I think it's that substitution that we saw before. This one's MyPy. MPY, not MyPy. 391, 327. Yeah. Okay, it must. Yeah, it must. Dunder mod must be part of the magic for string formatting the old way. It's kind of interesting. Okay. Got you built-in mod overload. Yep. Okay. So when we pass none, we get this error. When we do the same thing on CPython, it does succeed. So now what we're testing would be, does the one from the PR fix that? So for that, we go $49. Now we'll copy this one to our device. That again should fail with no module. Made you almost feel sane. Well, you're welcome. All right, there we go. Yeah, the fix looks good. Fix does make it now behave the same. No longer crashes, and in fact does more or less the same thing as what we were seeing before. Obviously, it does still have timestamp and it's white, not red, but we were seeing that same difference anyway. Cool. Yeah, thank you for the fix. It's cool to have somebody around watching the stream while we're looking over the PR. It doesn't always work out that way, but it is nice when it does. Also appreciate your help on the failure cases there. So we're going to want to be going 522. Whoops. I always like to do the dash here. I don't think it matters, but... Another one. That time it's not listing anything. Get your username right. Second guess myself. Pyeth. ETH, yeah, okay. 2. 1 is the old one, 522 is the new one. This is not the right thing here. This includes a fix for none logging methods to the behavior match CPython. Unblocks you on the Sense 55 dust sensor. Nice. Dust sensor. Impromptu, I guess, poll for the people watching this. Is anybody who's watching this interested in SMS or telephone calls? So there's a service called Twilio, which allows you, they have a REST API that allows you to send and receive text messages as well as send and receive phone calls. And so like you could send a phone call that will have text to speech, like say something to the person who answers. The example I always like to use is if you are familiar with like calling time and temperature, if anybody ever did that as a kid, or still to this day, there used to be like time and temperature phone numbers. There would be a phone number you call, and it just plays a recording that tells you the time of day and the temperature in your area, and like maybe a little bit more about the weather, like cloudy or sunny or something like that. Twilio is like a service that provides a REST API that allows you to make stuff like that. I'm considering making a Twilio CircuitPython either library or example that just shows how to use the requests library in order to interface with Twilio. But I don't have necessarily a specific use case in mind. But if that kind of thing, mobile SMS and telephone calls, is of particular interest to anybody, let me know. TweetML, clever. With DynDyn's DynDS, your ESP32 could respond. Yeah, I was thinking about that as well. There's the learn guides with the ChatGPT stuff in it as well. So it could kind of like, you send it a text or something, and then maybe it like prepares a response to you with ChatGPT or something. I was thinking of some other use cases, maybe sensors. It was your dust sensor here is what made me think of it actually right now. Is I was thinking like you could have a sensor set up in a room, you know, whether it's a dust sensor, air quality, or anything like that, and it could send out text messages if it's above a certain threshold or something as like a warning. I don't know. I don't have like a legitimate, this is exactly what I want to do with it use case, but I was thinking it might be cool just to get some examples or a helper library out there so folks who do have more specific ideas can be able to whip something up easier. Go with the 54 instead, save a quid or two. Had to try them all. IKEA went with 54 PM RH. VOC 55 includes NOx. Is a gas, but I don't know my elements, or it's not really an element, I guess, but I don't know my chemistry names, so I'm not sure what NOx is. Nitrous oxide? I don't know if that's right or not. Just have Whippersnapper. Must have seen Whippersnapper / Adafruit. Adafruit.io. So I definitely have seen Adafruit.io. I did not know Adafruit.io interacted with SMS at all. To the best of my knowledge, it doesn't. That being said, I don't have that much experience with Adafruit.io, so I could just be wrong. To the best of my knowledge, though, it does not interact with SMS. But that would be cool if it does. Hopefully I'm just wrong and it does, because that would actually cut out Twilio as a third-party service, which that's the thing, too. You do have to pay for Twilio. That's the thing, too. It's not free. You have to pay per message that gets sent, so it's not a lot. It's like a fraction of a penny, but it's not a free API as well, so something I'd like to know more about, but it isn't something I've had time to look into. I've used it in a few projects that are unrelated to CircuitPython, and I found it to be pretty easy to interact with. Seems like a nice API for doing that kind of thing. Okay. We got 10, 12, 15 minutes-ish left. The very last thing I'm going to do during this stream is look into a fix for this. So we're on a docs page here. I clicked through from the repo to the docs, and on the docs page, this thing here will not pop up. It's supposed to pop, like you click this, it's supposed to go whoosh and raise up a little panel here, and the panel has different versions inside of it. But that's not working. Like if we go here, you can see That's supposed to pop this up, but it's not doing it. And I think the reason is because it doesn't have jQuery at the right time, because it does actually have jQuery. I think. But it gets injected too late or something. So the way that we fixed this before, formula is N2O. Still didn't catch what the actual chemical was. S series, you get CO2 for concentration. IOs take SMS. IO does, oh, it takes inbound SMS feed messages on the Pro plan. I gotcha, okay. I do have the basic plan only for myself. It takes inbound. So you can send an SMS message to Adafruit IO in order to submit data to it, which is pretty interesting. Yeah, I did not know that. Thanks for the heads up. And then so I will say Twilio will allow us to do a bit more, because it will allow us to go the other way around. It would allow us to, from the microcontroller, essentially send a text message to a phone. Technically, the microcontroller is actually going to send a post to the Twilio server, and then the Twilio server is going to send the text message, but in effect, the microcontroller can cause that text message to be sent. So it would give us one extra link that we don't have the option to do in Adafruit IO, if I'm understanding what Adafruit IO has today correctly. NOx equals nitrous oxides. In the US, you can also send text messages to your phone's email address. If you can send an email from your program that the target, the email goes to can be your phone. Interesting. Did not know that. Have like vague recollection of something like that from back in the day before smartphones, but I don't remember the exact details. It does kind of ring a bell. So I think what's going to be the fix for this in the libraries is going to be the same thing that was the fix in the core, which was pretty much just adding Sphinx RTD theme jQuery or something. Sphinx contrib.jQuery inside of extensions, which is in conf, and then inside of requirements doc.text. So let's head back to main. Let's update this. Let's make a new branch. Git checkout. Let's get remote-v, get remote rename origin Adafruit. Git fetch Adafruit. Git remote add guy. Oh no, I should not have done that. Thought I had a URL copied. So we will test this on the logging library. The goal for today is to try this on one library and see if it works to fix the docs. And then if it does, then next week we work on how to roll it out to all of them. If it doesn't, then we dig further and figure out what's going on with it. Check out jQuery fix -b from new branch from main jQuery fix. So we go. Okay. So one thing right off the bat. Oh, right. We don't have docs requirements, but what we do have is requirements inside the docs folder. That's probably where this would go on this one. does have a different version of Sphinx. I don't know if there was an empty line there or not. Then inside of extensions in the conf.py, also inside docs extensions. This one is after doc test. We don't actually have autodoc intersphinx. Intersphinx is down here below, so I'm gonna put it between these two. I don't think the place where it's at matters, but try to make it match as much as I can. Yeah. Pre-commit run A. I don't know why this is like initializing. I don't know why it's doing all this. Reuse. Okay. Yeah, it's mad about these extra files. Aren't actually checked into the repo, so like I would argue it shouldn't be checking them, but it does. Here. Really a refactor. Try that again. There's a badger at my greenhouse door, slightly terrifying and very special. Badger? Wow. I don't know if I've ever seen a badger in real life. Alright, that passed. Let's go to docs. Let's go CP docs. Our docs actually builds. Okay, perfect. I'm pretty, if I recall correctly, this never did suffer from the same thing locally because locally, whoops, probably just checked the chat over there. Sorry about that. Locally, it does not have that frame. That frame is some kind of magic. See, we just don't have that thing here. It's not part of this page. It's part of read the docs, adds it in after the fact. So we can't really check locally very well, other than just to make sure the page loads, which it did. Only guy, jQuery fix. There we go. We'll put that in. We'll mark it for CircuitPython and librarians. If anybody who's watching has a chance to take a look over, leave a review. That's most appreciated. Otherwise, we'll wait until we get someone to look that over. Once that is reviewed, we can try to merge it. We can check on the docs. And if that does work, then next week we will have actionable change that we can get a patch put together for. Get it out to the rest of the libraries. It'd be nice to have our docs working again. Well, I mean, the page themselves works. You can still read everything on the page. You just can't go back to like other versions and things like this. So it'll be nice to get it back to running, but it's also not like it's, you know, it's not like it doesn't do anything for you as is. Like it is still 99% the same thing. It's just like if you're trying to get the old version, then you're a little SOL, or you even could still do it if you know the right URL. but you'd have to know that. Turtle. Got some feedback. Waiting on action. It's also got some conflicts. So that would be another one. Maybe we could merge the conflicts to make it easier on the distributor, but okay, refactor on the WizNet. Nice, Biphomer's got some more updates in there. That one's got conflicts as well. Got a lot of conflicts on the PRs that are open. Okay. Gone then reviewed. Already. I don't know if I'll have time expertise. Oh. Right. This is the, I think that's the URL you're asking? That's the URL you're asking. That's the, or I mean, if that's the thing you're asking about, that is the URL for it. And thank you, by the way, Tithe. Get that. I will, I'll still wait on this. We don't want to merge it for sure if the CI doesn't pass, but if it does pass, then we'll merge that and check it out real quick. And then I'll probably wrap it up after that, I think. So if anybody has any last questions, comments, statements, anything you want to say, anything you want to ask, now is the time to do it. Have maybe another minute or two here while we wait on the actions, but then I'll probably be heading out after that. For folks that are interested in this type of content, if you like this sort of thing, people working on CircuitPython, you can find more of this on Saturday mornings. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Central Time. I will be back, but I'll be over on my own channel, FoamyGuy_Twitch. You can follow me on Twitch if you want notifications. I will post links for Twitch and YouTube into the Discord, the live broadcast chat, when I get started. So if you don't want to follow me, that's fine as well. But you want to watch along, you can just hit that chat room in the morning, and I'll drop links in there when I'm getting going. I don't know for certain what we'll be working on tomorrow morning, but I will be back for sure to stream, and it will definitely be something CircuitPython related. That's looking all good. And now one thing I don't know is if we need to make a release or not. So we'll actually get to wait on another actions or two-ish. We're going to wait for this one to go green. Then we're going to check the docs. But if it's still the same, then we're actually going to make a new release and then wait for the actions one more time. Because I'm not sure when read the docs. Like, I don't know if that's part of the release or if it's just part of the commit or what. I don't know when that updates. So we'll wait on this to go green. We'll check it, and then we'll make a release, and we'll check it again after that's green again. So another couple of minutes. But as I was saying, 10 a.m. Central Time tomorrow morning, I'll be back to work on some more CircuitPython stuff. So if you are interested in this sort of thing, you want some more of it, that is where you can keep an eye out. If you want to watch some of the prior ones, there's a big library of my past VODs over on YouTube as well, if you want to go back and see some of the other stuff that I've worked on. But we'll be back at it tomorrow. Yeah, I won't speculate. I was going to say some of the things I might work on, but I don't actually know for sure. I don't want to get anybody excited about anything specific and then end up not doing it. So keep them to myself for now. We'll figure out in the morning what we actually want to do. What hobby CircuitPython projects have you been playing with lately? I've been out of the loop. The main one that I have been working on lately that I would call more of a hobby project is... It's actually running. I'll show you the, while we wait on that, I'll show you the device here. It's basically a web server that controls several other hardware peripherals. So it's kind of a way to test that HTTP server PR. So I have a feather tripler with a feather and then 14 by 4 and then a grid of neopixels. And what we worked on was an HTTP server app that runs on the feather and gives you a REST API to interact with the other hardware. So you can set the text that scrolls on the segments here from the REST API. You can also set the colors in all of the neopixels in the grid to whatever color you want, or you can set an animation out of a list of chosen ones. You can't just choose an arbitrary one, but I think there's like 4 or 5 of them hard-coded in there, and you can select the animation to have it run on these as well. So all that just kind of runs and does its thing and waits in the background there on the web server for you to connect up to it and actually change those things. 102, it looks like, is the IP right now. So that gives you this page. You can go, let's go deep divers, set marquee. We have deep divers scrolling across there. And then we can either change the animation. So like we go rainbow comet if we want instead of rainbow. We've got the comet going there. Or instead of the animation, we can actually use this grid here where we can select colors. And set. And then it will set whichever colors you choose in the grid. So I don't have a real it's another one where I don't really know why I made this other than just to kind of be an advanced example and to test out the non-blocking marquee, which I still need to make a PR for actually. But that's probably the thing I've been working on lately that I would say is closest to more of a hobby project than like specifically working on a library for the core or anything like that. All right, we got a green check here. Refresh that and make sure. Docs. No, okay, still same thing here. That's not working. Same thing there, so let's do the release. Whoops. It's not how they do jQuery, right? It's supposed to be like that more so. Need to go through the VODs and catch up on that. Looks like it's got a lot of components I'm interested in. Nice. Yeah, at some point, I've been dragging my feet. I want to order a quadrupler. The feather tripler is the biggest one I have, but I do actually want to grab the quadrupler and add a third feather wing. But I'm undecided on which one yet, which tells you that I'm like very cart before the horse on this project, where I'm like, I know I want to add something else, but I don't even know what else I want to add. I just know I want more things. Because the goal of that project is to try to kind of make it do as many things as I can to show how you can have that HTTP server running, in the background. Obviously, it's not like literally in the background, but you can have it, coexisting together with the other operations happening. Have it control all that extra hardware. So we'll wait on this one to go green, and then I'll check in on the docs again, and then I'll head out for the evening after that. Oh, okay, this is from before. NOx is car nut slang for nitrous oxide, so it was nitrous oxide, but it's not. I appropriated it, I guess, to being the chemical name or code or whatever. I don't know what they call those, but like H2O, the chemical composition or whatever. It's not actually that. That would be N2O. Gordy G tells us over on the YouTube chat there. NOx is different, but it's like a slang term for it. Release build. I don't know which action it would be, so I'll just let all these finish up and then we'll check in on the docs again. We may have to wait an extra minute as well too, because I think on the read the docs side, I'm pretty sure it has to like do some of its own stuff as well. I think it might be making a build of the docs on their server as well. I'm not entirely sure. I feel that carting before the horse. Need to fix my environment sensors so the data they record is stored in an easy to use database, but I keep trying to figure out what database before I really know what I need the data for. I need that data for, yeah. I gotcha. It's made me, the grid on here in particular, the LEDs, has made me want to try to define a standard-ish REST API for NeoPixels. I started mocking it out. Show you that while we wait here. I don't know for sure if I'll end up doing this or when, but so it's kind of like one of the things that spawned in my mind from this little project was like, hey, wouldn't it be interesting if we had a, again, standard-ish REST API that supports NeoPixels, so that completely through REST requests only, you could initialize the NeoPixels on whatever pin they're on, dot stars as well. They don't have to be NeoPixels, they could be dot stars also. Then you could go and set or get the colors on any pixel, or set or get the animation on the strip as a whole. And you could do all of this through REST API. Also, we would expose those individual function calls from the NeoPixel object. So like brightness, auto write, start, fill. Yeah, so this is all theoretical. None of this exists yet, but it's what this portion of this project back here got me thinking about, was making a more general NeoPixel API. We effectively have a NeoPixel API in here, but it's like very specific to that grid that they're in here. It's not general at all. You couldn't switch it to dot stars. You couldn't really change the number of pixels. You couldn't just call fill. So it's a bit more general. I think that might be kind of fun. So at some point I may work on that. Oh, wrong one. Okay, on green there. Nice. Got it. That's working now. Refresh. Okay. Cool. No longer have any jQuery missing stuff. There's this, whatever this is, but that's not a jQuery missing. Whatever it is, it has not prevented the page from doing its stuff. This is working, so good to go there. So now we just work on a way to kind of patch that same change out to all the rest of the libraries. But that will be a job for Monday, I think. So thank you everybody for watching. That color selector for the grid is one of the parts I want to try and use in my home server. The REST API would be cool to see. I'll tell you, the color picker I used is an off-the-shelf component. I want to say it was called Coloris? Color.is? Yeah. This was the color picker I used. If you're interested in that third-party component, you just kind of include it in your page, and then I think you call initialize on a regular old text input, and then it turns it into this for you. I did find it to be super convenient to work with, so I can't say that I've used it a whole lot. I didn't do a lot of intricate customizations or anything else, but For the most basic use case, I did find it pretty easy to work with. It was pretty cool. I was wanting somewhere to check endless data at high rates, not crazy rates, and only show the last 60 days or whatever like Adafruit does, but long-term cold storage for all the data past the 60-day window, slow to retrieve, cheap to restore, cheap but also ideally backed up. No anywhere, or do I really have to build the project I don't want to? It's a good question. I do not personally have a good answer for you as far as an off-the-shelf sort of thing that would let you store arbitrary data. I will say, like, personally, I have a lot of experience with Django, Python Django, the web framework. So certainly you could make a Django project that allows you to store data into it and then deploy that to a server and get your backups and all that kind of stuff you want going. You could build that with Django, but it's not just like ready-made. You would have to build that out. That's if I were sitting down to do it, that's probably the way that I would do it. But like you said, I don't know if there's like, is that rebuilding the wheel or not, right? There may be one out there that I just don't know of. So I don't have a great answer for you. You know, that's one way you could do it, but whether or not there's something else out there, I don't know. Thank you everybody for watching. Take it easy, Keith, Taya. Thanks for hanging out in the chat here with us and for your PR over there. Appreciate all that stuff. My server's completely local, so I don't know about remote servers to manage that, unfortunately. I gotcha. Yeah. I mean, with Django, you could run it local server as well, like on a Raspberry Pi or something like that. You could run that on your local network too if you wanted. Anyway, I will head out for now. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you all have a good evening and a good rest of your weekend and all that kind of stuff. Like I said before, we'll be back 10 a.m. tomorrow, Central Time, so head to the Discord if you want to hit the links when that starts. Otherwise, I will see you around later, whenever that may be. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you.